Hi, BookTube. It's Saturday. It's also the cricket season. And so the person who watches television has gone to the cricket. Yeah. And I'm left behind with the room that has the television to myself, meaning, oh my goodness, I can record in it, which I like. And I thought, what can I do? What can I do? I didn't have a book review ready. I'm almost finished a book, but not close enough. So I thought, well, I'll try and do a tag. So again, I scour BookTube looking for a tag, and I found one. I found the birth year book tag, which was started by Ollie at Criminoli, and I think he did it either just before I started my BookTube channel, or I had just arrived, so I wouldn't have been on anybody's radar, and I wouldn't really have been paying much attention to tags. I would have been finding my feet a little bit. So just because it's today, it's sunny, I have time to film, I'm going to create a little tag video just in case I need to, in case I go out and watch the cricket, right? Because I do. And so should I decide to do that one day, I will need a tag video to put up so that, I give you consistent content. So the first question in this tag is, have you read any books published in the year you were born? Well, that was 1964, so I had to go look it up. I had to get a Wikipedia article up and scroll down the list, and I found two books, yes, that I have read that happen to have been published in 1964. One is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, and the other is Games People Play by Eric Byrne. The tag now asks me, what's your favorite and why? Well, okay, I wouldn't call either of these books a favorite. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we were assigned to read that in elementary school. And I think we were also assigned to read James and the Giant Peach. I haven't chosen, other than that, to read any Roald Dahl myself. I think that's purely because I outgrew children's books rather early. Whereas I think normally I would have probably carried on and read other books of his, I didn't. That's the only reason, I think. Eric Byrne, now this was a non-fiction book, Games People Play, and I think you'd only remember it if you grew up or were an adult in the 70s. It was a popular psychology book, and it advocated a method called transactional analysis, and it was based on the Freudian personality model of superego, ego, and id. The idea being that when we communicate with other people, we are either channeling our inner parent, i.e. our superego, our inner child, i.e. our id, or an aspect of our true self, which was our ego. Now, I think there's a certain amount of truth in the idea, sure, but you wouldn't want to stop there. And the book was quite formulaic, so I can understand why it kind of faded out of public awareness. Probably not a bad thing. Then the question in the tags, the next one was, do I have any other favorites that were published in 1964? I looked down the list. I saw two books I wish I had read, and here they are. Chinua Achebe's Arrow of God and Herzog by Saul Bellow, because that won the Booker Prize in 1964. I'm on a book buying ban, so I'm not going to be getting those, but I'll keep them on my radar. I'll keep them on my list. The tag allows me an option that if I haven't read any books that were published in the year I was born, I could commit to choosing one book and reading it within the next 6 months. So I'm going to do that because I don't own, but the person who watches television does own a book that was published in 1964, which I have not read. And I'm going to hold it up for the camera. Wish me luck on that, okay? I commit to reading, well, you see, get it over there. There we go. Ruth Rendell's From Dune with Death. This was published in 1964. And so it's perfectly okay for me to read as part of my Read What You Own challenge. Now, speaking of the person who watches television, he had a much more interesting reading list for his birth year because he was born in 1954. 1954 was the year that J.R.R. Tolkien, that Lord of the Rings trilogy was published. Also William Golding's Lord of the Flies. Yeah, in fact, he got interested in this tag when I told him about it. And so he scanned all the way down the list and he went looking for a new book he could buy and read very shortly. And I got to show you this because I knew nothing about this. This was a discovery for both of us. The Exploits of Sherlock Holmes. But look at the author's name. It's not Arthur Conan Doyle, it's Adrian Conan Doyle. In 1954, Arthur Conan Doyle's youngest son, Adrian, was creating his own Sherlock Holmes stories. Now, Adrian wasn't a dedicated author, okay? In fact, if his Wikipedia biography is anything to go by, the only thing that Adrian Conan Doyle dedicated himself to was spending all of the inheritance he got from his father. But he did produce a couple of books, or he put his name to a couple of books, because it looks like he was assisted by a gentleman called John Dixon Carr. So that might have been a ghostwriter. We don't know. But Amazon are delivering the book later this week. So if the person who watches television chooses to read it right away, I will pass on his verdict. The next question on this tag is, have you read any books published in the year you turned 18? So that was 1982. So again, I had to look up Wikipedia article, and I found quite a few books published in 1982 that I've read. So I'll list them here. I have read The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende, Schindler's List by Thomas Keneally, Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant by Ann Tyler, and The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4, by Sue Townsend. Now, if I have to talk about favorites, it's a lot harder to pick a favorite here. I enjoyed all four of these books very much. I suppose Sue Townsend's book, it was entertaining, but I don't remember much about it. I remember that Adrian's love interest was a girl called Pandora, and I was really thrilled to see that used as a girl's name and, just lifted from mythology. That's it, though. The other three books I remember I was very engaged with, and Schindler's List, if you watch some of my previous videos, it was overwhelming in places. I had to read that in stages to get through it. Now, Ann Tyler, Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant. Not many people, I don't see them reading Ann Tyler. I've also read Breathing Lessons. What I love about her writing is that she can make ordinary people so interesting. Elizabeth Strout's writing seems to be very similar. So if you are looking for an observant, warm portrait of ordinary citizens in Middle America, those are two go-to writers I would recommend. The next question is, of the last 10 books that you read, how many were published before you were born? Well, that's just one. That's Goodbye to Berlin by Christopher Isherwood, which was published in 1939. The next question, did you prefer them, that is, the books published before I was born, to newer books? And I thought, see, this is a question for somebody younger, because lots of books published after I was born are now old books, because, heck, I'm old. I don't have age preferences, though. I don't prefer older to younger books necessarily. I just, whatever time period I'm encountering the book, I want to adjust my expectations to get them in line with the general reading preferences for around that time. And that sometimes means, adjusting my expectations about problematic content, etc., that kind of thing. That's my rule of thumb. Now, the next question 4, what's your favorite movie from your birth year and why? See, if we go on to films, it's iffy. I still chose this tag anyway, knowing, wow, you're not going to get much from the film side of this tag, but bear with me. In 1964, there were only 2 films that came out that year that I have watched. One was Mary Poppins, the Disney version, and the other was My Fair Lady. And I would have watched both of those back in the 70s. I have read a script from a film, A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. I've read that script, but I've only seen clips of the film. And I've only seen clips of Dr. Strangelove, which also came out that year. So there you go. See, it just shows I'm just such a rubbish film watcher. There were many other good films, but did I see them? Nope, not seen them. Terrible. Now, question 5 says, what's your favorite movie from the year you turned 18? Now, surely you would think, I guess I wasn't a typical 18-year-old. I still didn't see many films when I was 18. So here are the 1982 movies that I have seen. I have seen E.T., Gandhi, and Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Right? And they want to talk about favorites. I remember Gandhi was long. Thankfully, I didn't see it at the cinema. I watched it on video so I could pause it. Star Trek II, I only watched the once. And that's because it broke my heart, everybody, okay? Because the only reason I watched Star Trek was for Spock. So I was only sort of put back together again and recovered when they brought Spock back in the next Star Trek film. E.T. was fine, but I didn't see it in 1982, right? I watched it many, many years later with Drew Barrymore. She was in her 30s. So I kind of knew the plot already. Okay, that's the tag done. Now, since I imagine that this tag has done the rounds already on BookTube, the people that I'm going to tag are much newer channel owners, people that may not even know about this tag, but I bet you they'll give a better answer than me, especially about the films, right? Because anybody's better than me on film. So here are the people that I'm going to tag today. Angela at Angela's Bookcase, Coded Bookworm, Delapo Adedokun, Recovering Book Snob, Debate Books, and Jacob Marshall 22. You guys, I know you've only had your channels for like less than 6 months, so you probably don't know about this tag. I would love it if you have time, you fancy doing it. I'd love to watch your videos covering these questions. Okay, everybody, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to resume normal content soon, as I have a book read. Okay, shouldn't be long from now. Hope your reading is going well, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.